Well, my friends, we are back. Welcome back to Spot On with Link Lauren, a show where I'm going to break down the calamities of Hollywood, the circus of Washington, D.C., and everything in between. Right now, I'm on a boat, okay? I'm trying not to get seasick. We're trying to use Starlink. We are trying to make a dream work, everybody, but we have some hot topics, okay? It might be cold where I am, but we have some very fiery hot topics. We have to talk about, and just like that, the Sex and the City reboot that's officially coming to an end. Hallelujah, I couldn't be happier about that. We need some good news in this world. We're gonna be talking about the Kardashians' new face wrap they're selling. It's like a Hannibal Lecter sort of, Anthony Hopkins ridiculous situation. We're gonna get into that. We have to talk about Jasmine Crockett. We have to talk about Pete Buttigieg. So we're gonna do some Hollywood, some politics, and we will see you after we pay some bills. You guys know I am always on the go and in different time zones. Sometimes I need help getting to sleep fast and getting a good night's sleep. That's when I found Beam's Dream Powder. Beam is proudly founded in America and run by people who share our values: hard work, integrity, and delivering results. It's a healthy nighttime blend packed with science-backed ingredients shown to improve sleep so you can wake up refreshed and ready to take on the day. Dream is made with a powerful blend of all natural ingredients: reishi, magnesium, L-theanine, apigenin, and melatonin. If you can pronounce that stuff, good for you. Dream is made right here in America, supporting jobs, quality, and the principles we stand for. No shortcuts, no junk, just science-backed ingredients that help you fall asleep and stay asleep and wake up ready to produce results. Plus, it comes in some amazing flavors. Beam is giving us the ultimate Patriot discount of up to 40% off. Try their best-selling Dream Powder and get up to 40% off for a limited time. Go to shopbeam.com/link and use code LINK at checkout. That's shopbeam.com/link and use code LINK for up to 40% off. Sleep better, wake up stronger, and show up ready for your family, your work, and your country. Because when you're well rested, you're unstoppable, and this country needs more people like that. Well, God put a rainbow in the sky. Sex and the City is officially coming to an end, okay? And if you're gonna bury the dead, you need to leave the dead buried. We don't have to see Sarah Jessica Parker traipse around New York City in this ridiculous clownery she always wears. I don't know who the hell is styling her, okay? Maybe Gary Busey, maybe a madman. I don't know who's styling these girls, but they look like an utter calamity. They look like a disaster. But Sex and the City, the reboot, and Just Like That, has their final episode ever this week, and it's done kaput. Now, Sarah Jessica Parker, she's already teasing in this Radar Online article that she might want to continue the character. She won't let it go, okay? Let the mouse go, Carrie Bradshaw. Sarah Jessica Parker, I'd like to see you try to do a role that isn't Carrie Bradshaw. You've been dragging this woman around for 30 damn years. You need to evolve, you need to let go, and you need to move on. I'm telling you, if she tries to revive this character in a few years, it's gonna be a one-woman show where she's gone cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs and she's surrounded by all of her Manolo Blahnik shoes, okay? So she needs to go back and join reality, whatever reality is for wealthy, famous Sarah Jessica Parker. But this show, this is what happens when you go woke. You go woke, you go broke. And they're also paying these girls about $1 million an episode. Imagine getting paid $1 million an episode for this pile of crap, okay? But they went woke, and I will tell you why. And if you follow me on social media, I've already discussed this. This is what happens when you replace a beloved conservative male character like Mr. Big, played by Chris Noth, with a non-binary stand-up comedian, Che Diaz. Okay, when you do that, your show is going to go down the tubes. What made this show great is that you had these 4 women gallivanting around New York City in ridiculous outfits, drinking cosmopolitans and sleeping with men and having all these capers and escapades, okay? That's what made the original show great. They decided, we're gonna shove everything in this show like the United Nations. She's suddenly gonna have a black friend, an Indian friend, a Muslim friend, a non-binary kid, a trans kid. They try to throw everything in. And can't we just let shows be what they were? Okay, if you're gonna reboot a show, you don't need to go back and mess with the entire original formula. No one is expecting these women, after 30 years, to wake up and have this massive cornucopia of people like the United Nations in their lives, okay? So maybe y'all should go back to the drawing board. Michael Patrick King, Sarah Jessica Parker, you've gotten your asses handed to you, and this season has been terrible. This season has been a ridiculous fever dream. She moves into this massive massive townhouse has to be 15, 20, 25 million dollars if you're not familiar with New York real estate. Ridiculous, massive townhouse, millions and millions of dollars. And guess what? She happens to have sort of this handsome, pipe-smoking British guy who lives underneath her, who also happens to be a writer. This is where y'all lost me. Okay, this is where y'all jumped the shark. I lived in New York and I dated for years. I'm here to tell you this does not happen. Okay, you're lucky if you can find like a semi-decent guy in your borough. That's what I'm telling you. If you can find a semi-decent guy who's emotionally available in your borough, great. But the fact that she would move in on top of this British handsome actor, that's where you lost me, Carrie Bradshaw, okay? And what also made the show great originally was that they were having sex and they were in these ridiculous situations, okay? They were discussing topics and themes that were ahead of their time, okay? They were saying things on screen that you would never dare talk about in the 90s or early 2000s. The show now, to me, feels behind the times. I mean, these women, they're just so boring and they're lost and they don't know what to do and they're just walking around New York City and they're aimless. Here to tell you, most of the women I know in their 50s and 60s, the women in my life, maybe some of you watching this at home, you probably have your stuff together. You have to be very wealthy and liberal and elite to not have your stuff together at that age, okay? If you're a 60-year-old woman, you better have millions of dollars in the bank to just wander around New York City all day like, does he love me? Does he love me not? Is he the one? Is he not? So no, Sex and the City, the reboot, and just like that, we will be dissecting the final episode when it actually ends later this week. So be sure to tune in and be sure to subscribe. But I am happy that this has ended, but we have to move on. Now, speaking of taking out the trash, we have to talk about none other than the Kardashians, the Kartrashians. I thought they were gone too. Actually, can we cancel the Kardashians finally? Like the Sex and the City reboot, let's leave these women behind as well. Okay, let's leave them behind in the early 2000s where we found them. But Kylie Jenner, she's going viral for this birthday post. She's turning 28, okay? She's a young woman, she's vibrant, she's a successful entrepreneur, but she's going viral for these pictures because she does not look like a 28-year-old. I'm here to tell you, a 27 going on 28-year-old does not look like this, and it's because Kylie Jenner has been under the knife 1,000 times, okay? She has been nipped and tucked and flipped and fucked for a million years since she was about 15 years old, okay? That's who Kylie Jenner is, and excuse my French, y'all know I don't like to curse on this show, but it's the truth. Kylie Jenner is aging herself, and I've had so many young women write me to say, can you talk about this? We don't look like this. We're 35, we're 40, and we look younger than Kylie Jenner. And I think it's sort of this like snake eating its own tail, sort of reverse system where the more you go under the knife, the more plastic surgery you have to look younger and to look more youthful actually ages you. Okay, she got these massive breasts. She has filler. She's probably, in my opinion, had some work done on her face, whether it's the nose, it's injections, it's this, it's that, it's the Brazilian butt lift, it's the BBL. Once you start having all of these procedures, you're going to age yourself. You go back and you look at 28-year-olds in the 90s, the 80s, the 70s, they look like babies. Kylie Jenner, she is aging herself with all of this plastic surgery. And so let this be a sign to all the young women who follow and look up to Kylie Jenner because she's got hundreds of millions of followers. You might say, okay, I want to go get my lips done and my breasts done and my ass done and this. You're going to age yourself. And I tell all of my friends, enjoy being young. I'm young right now. I don't want to change. I want to enjoy being young and looking the way I look. And then you age over time and you get to the next station. But Kylie Jenner, so many women online are discussing this right now. This does not look like a 27-year-old turning 28-year-old, okay? She looks very, very, very old for her age. And the ironic situation is that she's paid probably hundreds of thousands of dollars to look younger and more youthful, and all she's done is age herself. Now, speaking of body dysmorphia and the Kardashians, we have to talk about Kim Kardashian's new product she's selling through her brand Skims, okay? Kim Kardashian, this is what the Kardashians do, okay? They give millions of women body dysmorphia and they tell them they should feel insecure about their shape, about their face, about their nose, about their buttocks, and then they try and sell them products to say, hey, if you buy our product, if you buy our makeup, your lips might look like ours, you buy our shapewear, you might look like us, your butt might look like us. Well, Kim Kardashian is now selling this Hannibal Lecter style face wrap, okay? She's selling this face wrap. Let me read you a little bit about this face wrap. So it retails for $48. $48 in this economy. It comes in two skin tones, clay and cocoa. You know they sat around. She probably paid her consultants $1 million. Like, should we call it clay? Should we call it cocoa? What the hell are those names? Okay. What happened to white and black? Okay. Now let me tell you about this. Fashioned from polyamide and elastane and supposedly infused with collagen yarns for ultra soft jaw support, the wrap is secured with Velcro at the top of the head and the nape of the neck, making it, at least in theory, suitable for everyday wear. It just snatches your little chinny chin chin, Kim Kardashian said of the product. Now it did sell out in hours, okay? It sold out in hours, but Anthony Hopkins did troll the product, and we have a clip of that. I want to take a look at it.
Hello, Kim. I'm already feeling 10 years younger. Goodbye.
Okay, when Hannibal Lecter is endorsing your product, we love Anthony Hopkins, we really do. I'm not sure that's the best endorsement for a women's sort of facial product, and I'm here to tell you, I don't care what she says is in this, the polyamides, ceramides infused with collagen, there are probably microplastics in there, okay, not to sound like some, California liberal, because I'm not, but there are probably some microplastics in there that you are resting on your porous skin for hours and hours and hours. And I will also tell you this, Kim Kardashian wants women to go out and spend $48 on these ridiculous wraps because maybe their faces will look like hers, maybe their jaws will look like hers, maybe their skin will look like Kim Kardashian. Well, let me tell you, Kim Kardashian is probably spending millions of dollars on lasers, on filler, on Botox, on getting neck lifts and facelifts and all types of treatments, blood facials, things that we probably couldn't get in our wildest dreams. But she wants you to believe if you buy this ridiculous face wrap, and we'll put it back up on the screen, she wants you to believe if you buy that ridiculous face wrap, you are going to look like her. I'm here to tell you that is not the case, okay? They need to come with a warning on these face wraps. You can buy all of the face wraps you want. You can walk around town looking like a crazy person with this on. You're not gonna look like Kim Kardashian. Okay, I'm here to tell you, Kim Kardashian's face, in my opinion, because I don't want to get sued, it's not God-given. Okay, it's not God-given. It's given by probably Dr., so-and-so, whatever, in Beverly Hills, California. That's who it's from. But it is not God-given, Kim Kardashian's face. And so you can go out and buy all the frickin' skin wraps you want. You're not going to look like that. Okay? Oh, what's that guy? Dr. Orion. Dr. Simon Orion, okay, in Beverly Hills. That's who I was thinking of. You can go to all these doctors. Guess what? That's how you get the Kim Kardashian face, in my opinion. It's not buying this ridiculous wrap. I'm also here to tell you, I don't think this can be good for you. Like, what about your circulation to your brain? What about to your skull? I mean, maybe the Kardashians don't care about that. They're not in Mensa, but I would be worried about getting the circulation to my brain. And I will circle back to what I said earlier. When Hannibal Lecter is endorsing your product, I don't think that's a good thing, Kim Kardashian. It's great that you sold out. We will see if you have repeat customers. That's really a telltale sign if a brand is doing well. If you have repeat customers, maybe it's a good product, but for now, absolutely freaking not. But we also have to talk about another woman, okay? And that is none other than Halle Berry. We're moving through these topics, okay? We don't want y'all to get bored. We have to talk about Halle Berry because this clip has gone viral of her ex-husband discussing what their relationship was like and why it didn't work out. Let's take a look at that.
It really wasn't a lot of negative attention until I decided to leave her in 1996. I remember Halle saying to me, hey, she asked me to marry her after knowing me for 5 months. So I'm looking at my mom, and I'm a Midwest guy. So in my mind, I'm thinking a wife at that time should cook, clean.
Traditional.
And then I'm thinking, okay, if we have kids, is this the woman I want to have kids with and build a family with? And at that time, as a young guy, she don't cook, don't clean, don't really seem like motherly.
Okay, so this is former MLB star. His name is David Justice. You guys, I would not know that if we did not do our research. But the reason this clip is going so viral is because, yes, some women, they dream of taking care of a home, having a kid, settling down, having the nuclear family. Of course, I talk about that all the time. We need to be promoting the nuclear family more in this country. But if you marry Halle Berry, an Oscar-winning actress making gazillions of dollars a picture, you think she's gonna come home and cook for you every night? No. No, get yourself a Chef Boyardee and get your ass in the kitchen, or use a credit card and order some food. Or you seem to make a good living yourself. You're a freaking MLB star. Why don't you order your own food? You know what I'm saying? So you're trying to cage this woman whose bird needs to fly free, not to sound like Mel Robbins up in here, that quack, but she needs to fly free and thrive in her career. And you're mad that she's not cooking and cleaning? You're mad that Halle Berry isn't at home cooking and cleaning for you? Okay, you knew what you were getting when you married a Hollywood actress, a rising starlet. So you have to know who you're going into a relationship with, and you have to have these conversations before you walk down the aisle. Millions of men in this country right now, they want to find a woman, have kids, have faith and family in their lives, as they should. But if you don't discuss those things before going down the aisle, you're an idiot. You are a fool and a clown. This is some buffoonery and tomfoolery. Before the rings are even exchanged, before there's a proposal, you should have these discussions in the first few months of a relationship. I think you should have some of these discussions on the first date, okay? TikTok, we don't have a lot of time to waste. We might get hit by a freaking meteor, okay? So on the first date, when you go in, you should ask the person you're on a date with, where do you stand with religion? Where do you stand with a household, taking care of a household? Do you cook? Do you like to clean? If you're looking for those specific things, why are you just now that you're moving in together and you're fully married and you've exchanged vows, why are you just now acting surprised by all this? You need to come in. This is my relationship advice. Come in on the first date, or at least in those first few weeks, maybe first few months if you got time to kill. But you need to have those discussions then, because if you're coming in after the wedding and acting shocked, you only have yourself to blame. And you can't marry Halle Berry and then be surprised that she's not cooking and cleaning for you every night. Okay, she's building a career. You know what I'm saying? She's worth millions and millions of dollars. She can probably get a private chef. So if that's something you need to feel like a man, you need a woman to prepare a meal for you at the end of the day, that's fine if that's what you need. But you should go find someone who can provide that, and you should have been having these conversations way ahead of time. You should have been having these conversations before you got married and moved in together. And I am shocked, actually, how many couples, and I see this with my friends too, as they're getting married and getting engaged and settling down, they'll get engaged, they'll move in together, and then they'll realize one wants kids and one doesn't. Wasn't that a conversation you should have had before you moved in together? Isn't that something you should have talked about early on at this point? Are we all shy little wallflowers? I come in on a first date, I'm like, here's what I want, here's what I'm into, here's what I'm expecting. If it can't meet all this, peace, see you later. You got to come in and tell people exactly what you want. You're getting engaged and moving in together and then saying, oh, you want kids? I don't want kids. I don't want kids right now. Why wasn't that discussed? Why wasn't that discussed ahead of time? So I think that's why this clip has gone so viral and galvanized millions of women to come out and write and tweet and post on Facebook and Instagram about this, because you got to know who you're getting into a relationship with. Nothing wrong with having a woman who wants to cook and clean and take care of the household. It's a beautiful thing, and have faith and family and everything that comes along with it. But there's some women that don't want that, and you should have that discussion and know what you're getting yourself into. And Halle Berry, for him to try and blame her and say she didn't cook for me, she didn't clean for me, she didn't take care of the house like my mom did. I saw my mom doing this. Why is Halle Berry not doing this? Probably because she's Halle Berry, you dingbat, you little bird brain. Probably because she's Halle Berry. So go back to the drawing board. We wish you well, sir. And the fact that you're still whining about your relationship with Halle Berry from 20, 30 years ago tells us you haven't moved on and you're a little bit of a beta male. But we got to pay some more bills. We have to pay some more bills, and when we come back, we have to talk about Howard Stern, the once iconic radio host who might get canceled. Does he care? Does he not care? I'll let you guys know. We've all had days when skin feels dull, hydration doesn't stick, and energy is all over the place. No amount of water, skincare, or coffee seems to help. That's when Peak's Radiant Skin Duo came to the rescue, and it's been a game changer ever since. This doctor-recommended duo, trusted by experts like Dr. Mark Hyman, Dr. Jason Fung, and Dr. Will Cole, supports whole body wellness from the inside out. With over 15,000 five-star reviews, it's clear this duo delivers results. Here's why it works. Sun Goddess Matcha provides steady, calm energy throughout the day. No jitters, packed with L-theanine for focus and EGCG antioxidants. It supports skin clarity and gut health because great skin starts from within. BT Fountain electrolytes hydrate like nothing else. Even with plenty of water, many still feel dehydrated. The difference? Clinically proven ceramides lock moisture into the skin at a cellular level, leaving it plump, fresh, and glowing. Purity matters. Peak's quadruple toxin screening ensures all ingredients are free from heavy metals, pesticides, and mold. Just clean, science-backed hydration and energy. Say goodbye to fatigue, dry skin, and energy crashes. Ready for healthier hydration? Get 20% off plus a free frother and glass beaker here. peaklife.com/link. Again, that's peaklife.com/link. Now, speaking of going woke and going broke, I don't think Howard Stern is going to be going broke because he had about a $500 million contract with SiriusXM, but we've heard that he might be let go from SiriusXM. Howard Stern might be looking for a new home, but the issue here is that according to the New York Post, his audience size has dwindled. Okay, Howard Stern's audience size has dwindled so much from about 20 million people a day at its height to 125,000 daily listeners, which means we are doing better than Howard Stern. We are more influential than Howard Stern. My friend's dog that has an Instagram account is probably more influential at this point than Howard Stern, because Howard Stern used to be this shock jock, right? He was this kind of like chauvinist, misogynist, outgoing guy who just let it rip, and his show was iconic, okay? You might not like everything he had to say, but he kept you watching, especially in the 90s and the early 2000s. He was politically incorrect. He was not part of the system. He was calling out the system. And what's so sad is to see these legends go from calling out the system to being a part of the system and the swamp. And that's what we saw with Howard Stern. And once you betray your audience, the audience that was with you for years, that's where you go wrong. That's why your audience went from 20 million people down to 125,000. And we'll get back to this in a second. But President Trump was actually asked about Howard Stern, whose show he used to do often. He used to go on Howard Stern, had some incredible appearances on Howard Stern. He was asked about his show potentially coming to an end by Brian Glenn of Real America's Voice. Let's listen to what Trump had to say.
Howard Stern, it's a name I haven't heard. I used to do a show, we used to have fun, but I haven't heard that name in a long time. What happened? He got terminated? You know when he went down? No, before. When he endorsed Hillary Clinton, he lost his audience. People said, give me a break. He went down when he endorsed Hillary Clinton.
There is no one more media savvy than President Trump, okay? Remember back in 2015 when he first got into presidential politics, they said, why is he tweeting? Why is he tweeting and posting? Guess what? He was circumventing the mainstream media. He created this entire alternative ecosystem, okay? There's no one more media savvy than President Trump. He had the #1 show, The Apprentice, on television, okay? Media savvy to the 9th degree, the nth degree, as they would say. That's who President Trump is. And so he really hit the nail on the head when it came to Howard Stern, because Howard Stern was the guy calling out the Hillary Clintons of the world. He was the guy calling out the swamp. Suddenly he's interviewing, kissing up to Hillary Clinton, kissing up to Kamala Harris, kissing up to Barack Obama, probably raising millions of dollars for these people. Your audience, guess what? They weren't the folks who loved Hillary Clinton. You know what? They were the ones who were probably making Monica Lewinsky jokes in the 90s. That's who your audience was, Howard Stern. And then you become a part of the liberal elite, because it's alluring, right? It's alluring to be invited to the fancy cocktail parties and the secret events and the fundraisers where it's $500,000 a ticket for the back room. It's very alluring for some of these folks, especially I think who've been outsiders and outcast and who are maybe insecure as kids. Someone like Howard Stern has a lot of insecurities. He talks about it often, whether it's the way he looks, whether it's his hair, anything like that, whether it's getting women. And so when you kind of get invited to be a part of that liberal elite, I can understand why you would jump in with, both feet very quickly. But Howard Stern, I think he betrayed his core competencies and his audience that wanted him to be this renegade guy, this off-color guy who is politically incorrect. And once you endorse Hillary Clinton, there's no going back. Once you endorse Kamala Harris and you basically turn President Trump, who used to do your show, into the enemy, even though you've known him for decades and you know he hasn't changed one iota in decades, that's when you became a joke, Howard Stern, and you have no influence. There are folks online, right? They are building tons of influence on their cell phone now. You don't have to tune into Howard Stern every single day, right? It's sort of an antiquated system. We don't need to tune into Howard Stern to hear an interview with Hillary Clinton and how she's going to rewrite history on Benghazi or some of these other calamities and disasters she had during her tenure as Secretary of State or as First Lady. You don't need to tune into Howard Stern to see that. But one thing that's also interesting about Howard Stern's show is that the staff, they're kind of preparing for an exit. And they say Howard Stern might be excited to leave. Let me read you a little bit about what's going on. So some of Stern's show writers have reportedly been keeping their best jokes for themselves, secretly hoping to use after the show's eventual end, one worker told the Post. Most of us have been coasting at work the last year because we know he's retiring, whether by choice or because he's forced out. One longtime staffer said, critics have also claimed he's been woke since endorsing Hillary Clinton's run against Donald Trump in 2015. Now, this is what everybody wants to hear at a media organization. Okay, every media organization right here. The writers are keeping their best material and they've been coasting because they know the show's going to come to an end. That's probably not what a media organization wants to hear. It's probably not going to help Howard Stern keep his contract. And I'm here to tell you, at the end of the day, money talks. Money talks. Howard Stern can say he wants to leave. He's happy to be retiring. If he was bringing in the dough, if he was bringing in the money, sort of like Meghan Markle with Netflix, okay? Meghan Markle, she's sort of reworking her Netflix deal, or they're stepping away from each other. I'm here to tell you, if she was bringing in the numbers and she wasn't 358 allegedly on the charts, they would have been re-signing her for another 100 mil. Same with Howard Stern. If he was bringing in the viewers, if he was still bringing in the millions of viewers he used to have, in the 90s and the early 2000s, guess what? They would be signing him up again for another contract, but they're not doing that because he has no advertisers left. What advertisers want to reach 100,000 people a day, 125,000 people a day who are ultra liberal and are probably living in liberal enclaves? It's just not interesting anymore. So Howard Stern, he became a part of the system that he used to criticize, and I think that's what's so sad to see. When someone goes from being a renegade and an outsider to becoming a part of the swamp in the system. That's probably the most pathetic part of the whole Howard Stern situation. Now, after talking about Howard Stern, one liberal hack, we have to talk about two other liberal hacks. You might know them from this podcast. It's called I've Had It. Now, me, I've officially had it with these two women because they're absolutely ridiculous and out of touch with reality. And now they've decided to denigrate 77 million Americans who voted for President Trump. This clip has gone totally viral on TikTok, on X, on Instagram. So good for them that they're getting those viewers, but they're not viewers tuning in because they like you. They're tuning in because they're horrified. They're horrified about how partisan you are, how disgusting you are, looking down on people from your liberal high horse and your ivory tower. I want to look at what these women said from the I've Had It podcast.
I've had it with white people that triple trumped. Yeah. That have the nerve and the audacity to walk into a Mexican restaurant, a Chinese restaurant, an Indian restaurant, go to perhaps their gay hairdresser. I don't think you should be able to enjoy anything but Cracker Barrel.
These women are absolutely disgusting. And let me tell you first and foremost, because I know a thing or two about psychology, these women, they're not fulfilled at home. I'm here to tell you, happy women whose homes are taken care of and who are fulfilled, they don't act like this. They don't lash out and look down on 77 million Americans who voted for President Trump. You know what I'm saying? What about the left? The left, they preach diversity and acceptance and love is love, unless you go against the grain. If you disagree with a liberal, a real establishment liberal on one little thing, you're going to be ostracized. You're disgusting. You go eat at Cracker Barrel. You can't eat at a Mexican restaurant because you voted for President Trump. What? What the hell is that? That is racism. That seems like racism in and of itself. But these women, apparently they're Bravo stars. They're named Jennifer Welch and Angie Pumps Sullivan, and they're obviously the host of the I've Had It podcast. Now, I think they should stick to doing Bravo reality shows because they seem a little bit out of their depth. This is also very akin to the Hillary Clinton basket of deplorables comment. Remember Hillary Clinton said, we can put half the country in a basket of deplorables. Or remember Joe Biden before this last election, he called half the country garbage, okay? Because this is what these liberal elites who sit around in their mansions watching MSNBC think of you. That's what they think of you, okay? If you go against the grain, if you even question the liberal doctrine and talking points, these women are gonna tell you you're disgusting, you can't even go to a Mexican restaurant, you're nothing but Cracker Barrel. Also, this narrative, this antiquated, tired narrative that Trump supporters are somehow hicks and hillbillies who just always go to Cracker Barrel. I love Cracker Barrel. I freaking love Cracker Barrel. So joke's on you for denigrating Cracker Barrel. But this narrative that Trump supporters are somehow backwoods or unevolved people, I'm here to tell you, Silicon Valley came out for President Trump. So many of my successful entrepreneurial friends came out and voted for President Trump. And what type of women are you, disgusting, feckless cowards sitting there behind your microphones looking down on people because they might go to Cracker Barrel? You're looking down on people because they might happen to eat at Cracker Barrel. They might live in a rural area. Oh, well, guess what? If you're not in Los Angeles, New York, Chicago, most of the country is red. Most of the country ain't blue, I can tell you that. And they live in rural areas. So you girls are disgusting and are out of touch, and it's this MSNBC limousine liberal BS, and it's why Kamala Harris lost the election. These women right here, Okay, they want to buddy up to Obama. They're just like Howard Stern now. They want to buddy up to Obama and J.B. Pritzker and all of these liberals, and they have them on their shows and they kiss their asses. They don't have the balls, these women. Okay, they don't have the balls to have a conservative come on the show and have a real conversation. So what do? They have a bunch of liberals come on all the time and they kiss their asses and they stick to their talking points because they want access. They kiss up to Gavin Newsom. This is what they do. Kamala Harris, Tim Walz, that is what they do because they want access, and that's how they feel empowered, right? For these women, their number one issue in this election is probably abortion. Okay, their number one issue in this election is probably the fact that the Dobbs decision happened, that Roe v. Wade was overturned. Even though they're probably past childbearing age, they're going to make abortion their number one issue. Here to tell you, a lot of the women who write to me, abortion isn't their number one issue. It's not their number one issue by far. They care about the economy, the border, having safe streets to walk down, having their kids grow up in an education system that works where they can do reading, writing, and arithmetic, and we're not 40-something in the world. That's what these women care about who write to me. These women on here, Jennifer and whatever Pumps, whatever the hell her name is, they're disgusting, and they look down on half the country. And I want to play the second half of this clip because it even gets worse. It gets worse.
And if you want to triple Trump and you want to browbeat DEI and you want to browbeat gay people and you want to browbeat black people as you've been doing for 400 years, and you want to browbeat this generation of immigrants that come over here and open up businesses earnestly, pay their taxes, you want to demonize them and call them rapists and felons and all this shit when the felon is the teeny weeny mushroom cock piece of shit, Kankles McTaco tits at the top of the ticket. I have fucking had it from top to bottom.
So first and foremost, I apologize for the language in that segment. Like I said, these women are pretty disgusting, okay? They're pretty disgusting women. It's good that they have each other, actually. My theory, this is just a theory in my opinion, these women hate each other. The two hosts of the show, they hate each other, but they probably, these women probably hate each other, but I also feel like they've hooked up once or twice. I feel like there's some weird sexual tension between the host of the show. I have no evidence to support this. This is just my opinion. I think they hate each other, but sometimes that hate sex is good. And I think these women are going at it like Donkey Kong. That's all I'm saying. I can feel the energy there. But these women, right? They put forth this narrative that President Trump is racist. Once again, old, tired narrative. Old, tired narrative. Why did we see young black men come out for President Trump over Kamala Harris? Why did we see his Hispanic support go up? Asian support go up? If he's so racist, why did we see that? Why do we see the highest ranking gay cabinet member and Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent? What about that? He just had Tim Cook at the White House in the Oval Office. What about me? I'm gay, very gay. I just flew on Air Force One. So I don't think President Trump is homophobic. I'm here to tell you, okay, I am very visibly gay. President Trump lets me ask him questions often. Okay, he's one of the most accessible presidents in American history, the most accessible, and it's incredible. That's how it should be. These women want to sit on their podcast and say the president is racist. What about the First Step Act? What about anti-recidivism? What about getting people out of prison and clemency? That's who President Trump is. Alice Marie Johnson. He has Alveda King working with him. He has all these incredible black leaders working with him. Okay, so this narrative that he's somehow racist just doesn't track. You guys just put up an African-American woman as your nominee and people didn't vote for her. Not because of the color of her skin, not because of her gender, because Kamala Harris is a buffoon who could barely form coherent sentences, okay? The woman was a joke. She was put in charge of the border, and when she was asked about why she didn't go down to the border, she's like, well, I didn't go to Uganda either. I didn't go to Barbados. Bitch! All we want is you to go down to the border for 5 minutes and see the invasion that's happening, okay? So when all these polls are showing you the top issues, it's not racist to have a secure border. But these women, Jennifer Welch and Angie Pump Sullivan, I actually don't give a shit about their names anymore. They're so disgusting. These women want to sit on their podcast and say that if you vote for President Trump, you're ugly, you're fat, you must eat at Cracker Barrel, you must be uneducated and racist. You know who's really racist? These women. You know who's really disgusting? These women. And this is that liberal elitism that had Kamala Harris campaigning with Beyonce and the Soros family instead of going to Michigan and speaking to working class Americans like President Trump did. You know what I'm saying? And Hillary Clinton, same thing in 2016. Should have gone to Michigan a little bit more, sweetheart. You've been in the game for decades. Should have gone to Michigan a little bit more. President Trump spoke to working class Americans, the forgotten men and women of this country, and I think it would behoove these girls and I use the word girls as a compliment, it would behoove them on this podcast to go travel the country and speak to more folks, okay? They can sit in their little liberal echo chamber. They can probably pay their bills because they've got this captive, small, niche audience of folks who want to feel coddled and watch MSNBC and think of Trump as the boogeyman. But his policies are overwhelmingly popular and moderate, and that's who President Trump is. So we'll be tracking these women. I want to track these women a little bit more because they really just fascinate me how they sit there and they hate anybody who voted for President Trump. 77 million Americans were doing this now. We're still looking down on half the country. It's so sad. It's so just pathetic and so close-minded. And there's just something about the way they worded it and the way that they said it that just gave me the heebie-jeebies. It was so gross. You could just feel the negativity pouring out of these women. And I can say some rough things, right? I can get tough and be rough and tumble. You know, I'm not one to hold my tongue, but you can just tell their energy is nasty. There's a way to report the news and give your take, and then there's a way to just be downright nasty. And the way she was speaking about so many people, I'm here to tell you, Trump supporters, the ones I've met on the road, the ones I'm around often, many of you watching this, could not be nicer, kinder people. The folks I wouldn't want to hang out with are these folks who loved Kamala Harris and Hillary Clinton, these liberal elites. That's who I wouldn't really feel that comfortable around. When I'm out, okay, in a liberal city now and I see someone in a MAGA hat, I'm like, okay, I feel safer. When I'm walking around New York City now where you have active shooters and crime all over the street, I see someone in a Make America Great Again hat or a dark Trump hat, I'm like, thank you, I feel safer now walking down the street. So these women, you know, I do wish them well. I do hope that they can expand their worldview. I've seen this before with like Harry Sisson, that big DNC TikTok influencer. They just live in their liberal echo chambers and they look down on half the country. And it's why the Democrat Party isn't evolving. They should be having more conversations with conservatives and folks who voted for President Trump to try and understand them. But instead, they're going to sit down and just say such disgusting things. And I think it goes back to the fact that there's something going on at home with these girls. There's something unfulfilled at home where they're just oozing vitriol and negativity. The energy is really dark and negative, but let's move on. Now, moving on from those ridiculous liberals to another, we have an edition of Crockett's Corner because Jasmine Crockett is the gift that keeps on giving. And I don't mind talking about Jasmine Crockett because she's never going to be president. She's never going to have any real power or influence. I feel bad for my friends in Dallas who live in her district. I'm from Dallas, thankfully not her district, but she has pretty much let her district go into the doldrums. You go walk around, the businesses are shuttering. She's more interested in being on TikTok and Twitter at MSNBC than she is actually doing work, but that's who Jasmine Crockett is. That's actually how a lot of these liberals are. They don't want to work, they want to twerk, and they want to post TikTok videos dancing down the hall to Kendrick Lamar songs. So that's Jasmine Crockett. But Jasmine Crockett, this expose came out recently with interviews of her staff, okay? And they did not describe her very well, okay? They sort of describe her as like an Anna Wintour, Miranda Priestley, Devil Wears Prada kind of person, except the devil is wearing knockoff Gucci that she got on Canal Street. So let me read you a little bit about what they said. She is focused almost exclusively on being an influencer, not a member of Congress, one source said, describing Crockett as all diva, no wow. Multiple former staffers and congressional aides that have worked with Crockett described her as rude, rarely present in the office, and a terror to work with when she does show up. This is a direct quote. She's laying around her apartment, won't come into the office, and is really just indifferent to staff and will scream at them, a former aide said, claiming the foul-mouthed congresswoman freaks out over the most random things. Now this is where it gets dicey. Another source indicated that Crockett demands staffers rent high-end vehicles. It has to be an Escalade to chauffeur her to and from the Capitol every week. She expects her staff to drive her around while she's in the back seat, calling it a power play akin to treating the staffer like an Uber driver. Now, I believe this. I believe this wholeheartedly, okay, because I can spot it from 1,000 miles away. We've seen it with Meghan Markle. We've seen it with Kamala Harris. We've seen it with Jasmine Crockett. These women can't keep their staff. They are bullies. And we're all told if we discuss the bullying allegations, we're racist, right? Because these are women of color. If you say they bullied or treated their staff poorly, it's because she's a woman. She's being judged differently. It's because she's a black woman. You can't say that about her. You're saying she's angry because she's a black woman. No, I would be saying this if she were a white man, okay? If a white man, let's say a white congressman, has his team come out and say they're a diva who sits around their apartment all day and is focused more on social media, I'd be calling them out too. And I would also believe it because we see her on social media every single day. So when her staff is saying she's more interested in being on social media than doing the work, I've been saying that for months. I have 2 eyes and 2 ears, okay? I can put things together. You know, I might not be in Mensa, but I can put some things together. Jasmine Crockett, I believe it. And she probably does want to be driven around and chauffeured in a big Escalade like she's important and famous, because that's what it is to the Democrats. They don't care about delivering results or getting things done. They care about likes and tweets and followers. And that's why they lost this last election, right? Because President Trump was looking at the polls and saying, oh, y'all care about immigration. 60% want mass deportations. All right, we're going to give you mass deportations. A lot of y'all are saying you want to overhaul the Department of Education. All right, we're going to do that. Oh, 80% of Americans at least say they don't want men and women's sports. Check, we're going to do that. While the left was busy filming memes and dancing around like Kamala Harris was on TikTok the last few months of the election. And I say this as a TikToker, someone with 900,000 followers on TikTok. I love the platform, but you're going to have to do the work. You can't just do the twerk, okay? You can't just do the TikTok videos. You have to show up and actually deliver for your constituents. And that's what Jasmine Crockett is not doing. But she did respond to the allegations. Let's listen to what she had to say.
Are you a no-show boss from hell who terrorizes staffers?
Oh, my goodness. Listen, I know that I have arrived, honey. That is the way that I see this, because as Beyonce says, if they're not talking about you, then obviously you must not be doing anything. You know what? This is just more slander, more nonsense, more lies. And honestly, I don't think that the New York Post would probably be the first ones to be able to figure out if I was a boss from hell.
Okay, first off, let me just say, because she makes fun of everyone else's looks, I feel this is fair game. Her eyelash, if you're with us on YouTube, her eyelash, her fake eyelash is coming down over her eye, okay? She looks like she's got one eye open and one closed. I think the glue like shut it closed. So one of her eyelashes is literally drooping down her face, okay? Or maybe she has Bell's palsy. If she does, we wish you well. I hope that's not the case, but something is wonky with the eyelashes. Something is a little bit wonky. She also did the nervous laugh. She did the nervous laugh at the beginning of the clip, which tells us there might be some merit there. It was sort of the Kamala Harris. I'm not more interested in fame than doing work. Well, you're literally on a TV show right now. You could be working, bitch. You could be out working. And when you say you're not more interested in fame and these are lies and slander, you are always on TikTok dancing down the hallways. We have clips and videos of you. If you type in Jasmine Crockett, most of it is of her dancing down the hallway. So she can go on TV and say that this is false and this is slanderous. We're watching with our own eyes and ears. It's not that false or slanderous. I also have to say this. When a member of Congress is pressed on an issue and backed into a corner and they start invoking Beyonce, well, when Beyonce says if they ain't talking about you, you're not doing something right, sweetheart. Okay? When you're quoting Beyonce, you've lost. When you're quoting Beyonce, you've lost the argument. All we want, Jasmine Crockett, is for you to do your job. Do your job for your constituents. Instead, you're more interested in the likes and the followers and the clicks and being a viral sensation. But that virality is not going to give you real influence. AOC, when she came up in the Democratic Party, very viral. Millions of followers and everything. What influence does AOC have now? She's nothing. She's irrelevant. And so that's who Jasmine Crockett is. She's pretty irrelevant. President Trump also, okay, this morning, Monday morning, up bright and early, put out a tweet about Jasmine Crockett. Let me read you a little bit of the tweet here. Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett is a low, very IQ individual, much in the mold of the AOC +3 gang of country-destroying morons, only slightly dumber. Each of these political hacks should be forced to take a cognitive exam, much like the one I recently took while getting my physical at our great Washington, D.C. military hospital, Walter Reed. As the doctor said, President Trump aced it, in all caps, something that is rarely seen. These radical left lunatics would all fail this test in a spectacular show of stupidity and incompetence. Take the test, in all caps. I couldn't agree more. I could not agree more. In the same way, we've talked about Joe Biden's cognitive decline for years. We saw the man was non-compos mentis and falling down and bumbling fool. Kamala Harris wasn't much better. Kamala Harris can't form coherent sentences, so either it's alcohol and it's liquor, or it's the fact that she needs to take a cognitive exam. I think everyone, Congress, Senate, you name it, you should have to take a cognitive exam. I would love to see Jasmine Crockett take a cognitive exam, a personality exam. I'm here to tell you she's a malignant narcissist who has multiple personalities, because Jasmine Crockett, you run into Jasmine Crockett in private or you look at old videos of her. She's like, well, yes, the Declaration of Independence, the circumference of the moon is 3.14. You now look at Jasmine Crockett. She's on TikTok going, this mofo crack-a-lack-a-check your name, booka-baka-baka. What happened to Jasmine Crockett? Why does she have 5 different personalities? Jasmine Crockett, she goes and talks to this audience. She's like, yes, thank you so much for these crumpets and scones. My name is Jasmine Crockett. I went to private school. Then she turns around and she's like, this mofo Trump ain't Peter Piper picked a pepper. What the hell is going on, Jasmine Crockett? Who are you? Why do you have 10,000 different personalities? You're like Jekyll and Hyde or something. Okay, and I wish you would go hide. I wish you'd just go hide and go away. But actually, I enjoy the fodder and I enjoy discussing you. But no, Jasmine Crockett, she is that gift that keeps on giving. I believe every rumor, because that's my right. It's my right too. I believe every rumor. And also, I can see it with my own eyes. She cares about the followers. She cares about the clicks. And I'm not shocked that she wants to be driven around in an Escalade like she's in a Beyonce music video, because apparently she's quoting Beyonce in all of her interviews as well. But speaking of another rising star, a star that actually has risen and fallen and is trying to rise again in the Democratic Party, we have to talk about Mayor Pete Buttigieg, okay? The former Secretary of Transportation, whose only qualification for that role was filling potholes in South Bend, Indiana, okay? But the Democrats, they turned him into a brand, and me, some of my friends, we even looked at him in 2019 and said, this guy sounds okay. Sounds kind of moderate. He's handsome. He's gay. He's this. He's that. Pete Buttigieg, let me tell you, this is a radical. He won't condemn men and women's sports. He won't condemn the transing of children. He's polling in a new Emerson poll with 0%. Okay, 0% with Black Americans. That's tough. That's really tough to be 0% with any group, okay? I don't know what I would come up in a poll with Black Americans. I'm like the whitest person on earth, okay? But I think it might be more than 0%. Shout out to all the Black people watching us right now. We love you and you're welcome on the podcast. But Pete Buttigieg, you're still polling at 0% with Black Americans after being Secretary of Transportation, after running for president before. Not looking good for you. It's looking a little bit dicey. But Pete Buttigieg, okay, he went on the Pod Save America podcast, which is that podcast where those liberal beta males sit around bemoaning President Trump and, oh, he's a threat to democracy and he's an authoritarian leader. That's what those boys do, okay, on that podcast. Well, he went on the podcast and listen what he had to say about censorship in the United States.
The biggest mark of success by the Trump administration in terms of trying to be that controlling, trying to be dictatorial, to me, isn't what's happening directly with the government. It's what's happening indirectly. It's the self-editing that we're seeing happen at broadcasters and universities and private firms, law firms, and others. You know, that's the real hallmark of losing your grasp on freedom.
Okay, first off, you guys know I give credit where credit is due. Pete Buttigieg, he's looking as good as he's gonna look. The beard, he's trying to morph into JD Vance. You can tell he's working out. Pete Buttigieg is just slowly trying to turn into JD Vance, because in his mind, in his, delusions of grandeur, it might happen, who knows, it's a wild country. He's thinking he's gonna go toe to toe with JD Vance. So he's adopting the facial hair, he's adopting the intonations, everything about JD Vance. And these are both, I believe, Ivy League scholars. They're similar in age. So I think Pete Buttigieg is definitely trying to take a little bit of what JD Vance is doing, but use it on the left. But the problem with Pete Buttigieg is when he answers questions, he gives non-answers. He has nothing to say. Pete Buttigieg, he does interviews, you ask him a question, you're like, Pete, is the sky blue? Pete Buttigieg goes, well, the sky is a color that might be red, might be green, it might be blue. But the fact that we're discussing the color, sir, can you just answer a question? That's why people like President Trump. That's why people are leaning away from the Democratic Party, because they just want straight up answers. They don't want everything filtered through a focus group, and Pete Buttigieg is feeling so focus grouped right now, which is actually not how he used to be. I think he's trying to tiptoe around, and he really wants to please the DNC donors and the DNC powers that be and the Soros family and everybody who might support him in 2028. He's trying to tiptoe around these minefields because he wants to get the backing for a 2028 run, instead of just coming out and letting it rip and speaking the truth. But I also think someone like Pete Buttigieg, Ivy League educated, probably dreamt and primed, of running for office for years and decades. There's just no there. I actually just don't think there's that much of a personality. I don't think there's much beneath the surface. I don't think there is a genuine Pete Buttigieg, something authentic in him that can really come out. And so for Pete Buttigieg, I'm not shocked that he's giving non-answers in these interviews, but when he talks about censorship, and this is the new thing from the left, right? they're losing. The left is losing the culture war. They're losing every election. And they say it's because of censorship. What censorship? You're on a podcast talking. This is what doesn't even make sense to me. These folks are going on shows and saying they're being censored when they're literally on shows talking. So something's not tracking. You can't say you're being censored when you're on camera giving an interview with a high definition camera and microphone. Just isn't really tracking. You know what I'm saying? 1 + 1 is 2, 2 + 2 is 4. You can't say you're being censored. But this is what the left does. They're losing the culture war. There's shows like Colbert, they're getting canceled. Howard Stern's numbers have dwindled. He's probably getting canceled. The View might get canceled. All these shows are going down the tubes because people don't want to watch them anymore. And suddenly the left wants to say it's censorship instead of taking culpability and saying, you know what? Maybe our viewpoints and our policies aren't popular anymore. That's why I believe in most of these polls, you look at approval within the Democratic Party from Democrats is at 20-something percent, 23%, 25%, 28%. That's not good, right? If you look at the GOP right now, they really support President Trump. They're a unified coalition. The Democrats have no identity. And if Pete Buttigieg wants to be that identity, he's going to have to do some soul searching and figure out who the hell he is. You're going to have to give some straight up answers and stop worrying about your little donors over here and who's going to support your 2028 run. You want to build a real coalition of folks who support you, a real movement like President Trump did and like folks on the right have done and are doing. You're going to have to be authentic. You're going to have to give a hot take. Pete Buttigieg, when you're asked about men and women's sports, you should say no. Absolutely not. When you're asked about the transing of kids, say no. It might be a hot take, might piss off some of your base, but guess what? This wishy-washy gray area BS you've been doing for years isn't cutting it. It's why you're at 0% with black people. It's why you're not taken seriously by anybody except these liberal elites who want to hang out with you at cocktail parties. You're not taken seriously. So give a hot take. Give a hot take, Pete Buttigieg, and get in the arena. And if you can't get in the arena and you can't handle the heat, don't come into the damn kitchen because you're an embarrassment at this point. If you're not ready to do press, you're not ready to do interviews, don't do them. Do not do them, Pete Buttigieg, because you don't have much to say and you're looking like a joke and you're looking like a clown, which actually benefits the right. But that concludes our episode of Spot On with Link Lauren. I could not be more grateful that you guys tune in, that you watch, that you comment, that you share. Thank you so much for sending the shows to your friends who you think might like it, who might be interested. And you guys know I sit and I read so many of the comments because we don't have censorship. Contrary to what the left wants to tell you, we don't have censorship. You guys can write me on X, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. I pour through those comments. My team will tell you. I'm sending them comments. Well, they're saying this. They're saying that. We should look into that. So I could not be more grateful. Tell me what you guys think about all these hot topics. The ridiculous Kim Kardashian face wrap, Pete Buttigieg, Jasmine Crockett, this plastic surgery trend with young people like Kylie Jenner aging themselves, shows like Howard Stern being canceled. I know many of you remember Howard Stern when he was an icon, when he was a shock jock and he didn't know what was going to come out of his mouth. Then he became a liberal hack. So we'll be back on Wednesday with more hot topics. Be safe. I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye.